The sun hung low over the bustling city of Lagos, casting long shadows across the streets where the rich and poor walked side by side, yet worlds apart. Among them was Chief Adebayo, a man whose name carried weight in boardrooms and political circles. To the world, he was a billionaire businessman, a king in a tailored suit, his every word dripping with power. But on this dusty afternoon, he was just an ordinary cleaner dressed in faded overalls, pushing a mop across the floor of a high-end bank. No one looked twice at him. No one recognized the man behind the disguise. This was his game, his secret. For years, Chief Adebayo had played the role of the humble cleaner, slipping unnoticed into places where the wealthy gathered, listening to their careless conversations, learning their weaknesses. He told himself it was just curiosity, a way to stay grounded, but deep down in the hidden corners of his heart, there was something darker, a hunger, a thrill in knowing he could be right under their noses and they would never suspect him. But today something was different. Today, fate was about to twist his game into something far more dangerous. As he wiped down the marble counters, his ears caught a conversation between two bank managers, their voices low but urgent. "The transfer goes through tonight," one whispered. 50 billion naira. Once it's moved, no one can trace it. The other nodded, a greedy glint in his eye. Chief Adebayo's fingers tightened around the mop. 50 billion. Enough to make even a billionaire pause. His mind raced. He had spent years pretending to be invisible, but now opportunity was staring him in the face. That night, in the privacy of his penthouse, he paced the floor, his reflection in the floor to ceiling, windows showing a man at war with himself. He didn't need the money, but the challenge, the idea of outsmarting them all, was intoxicating. A small voice warned him to walk away, but another louder voice whispered, "What if you could take it and no one would ever know?" By dawn, his decision was made. He would do it. Not for the money, but for the game. He would test his own legend, see if he could truly move unseen in both worlds. But what Chief Adebayo didn't know was that he wasn't the only one playing a disguise. And the moment he reached for that fortune, invisible strings would tighten around him, pulling him into a trap far deadlier than he could imagine. For every secret has its price. And his was about to come due. The plan was flawless, at least that's what Chief Adebayo told himself as he adjusted the janitor's cap low over his face and slipped into the bank's back entrance. The security guards nodded at him, just like they always did. To them, he was just another faceless worker, invisible in his worn-out uniform. But tonight, he wasn't here to clean. Tonight, he was here to steal. The bank systems were tight, but he had spent months studying them, memorizing the blind spots in the cameras, the shift changes of the guards. He moved like a ghost, bypassing locks with ease, his fingers dancing over keypads with practiced precision. When the vault door finally hissed open, revealing stacks of cash and gleaming gold bars, a slow smile spread across his face. He had done it! He had outsmarted them all. But as he reached for the first bundle of cash, a shadow shifted in the corner of the room. His blood turned to ice. He wasn't alone. A figure stepped forward, arms crossed, a knowing smirk on his face. It was Tunde, the bank's head of security, a man Adebayo had spoken to dozens of times, always as the harmless cleaner. But look in Tunde's eyes now was anything but harmless. "Chief Adebayo," Tunde said, his voice smooth, almost amused. "Or should I call you Mr. Cleaner?" Adebayo's heart hammered against his ribs. How? How did he know? Tunde chuckled, shaking his head. "You really thought you were the only one playing a game." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I've known who you were for months, and I've been waiting for you to make a move like this." Adebayo's mind raced. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a setup. But before he could react, Tunde pulled out his phone and showed him a video. It was footage of Adebayo disguised as the cleaner, planting a bug in the bank manager's office weeks ago. You see," Tunde said, "I don't work for the bank. I work for them. The people who really own that 50 billion. And they don't like thieves." Adebayo's mouth went dry. He had walked right into a trap, but Tunde wasn't done. "Here's what's gonna happen," he said, slipping the phone back into his pocket. "You're gonna take the money, just like you planned. but half of it belongs to me. And if you refuse, well, let's just say the police will be very interested in this footage. Adebayo's hands clenched into fists. He had spent his life controlling every situation, bending the world to his will. Now he was the one being played. He took the money weeks past, and the stolen fortune weighed on Adebayo like a curse. He had transferred his share to offshore accounts, buried it under layers of fake companies, but the victory felt hollow. Because Tunde wasn't just a blackmailer, he was a predator, and he wanted more. The calls started coming at odd hours. "We need another job," Tunde would say. "Bigger this time." Adebayo refused at first, but then the threats grew darker. "I wonder what would happen if your daughter found out what her father really is." That was the moment Adebayo realized. He wasn't just risking his fortune, he was risking his family. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday night. Adebayo sat in his study, staring at a file Tunde had sent him, a blueprint for a government vault. If he did this, there was no going back. His phone buzzed. A message from his daughter, Amara. "Dad, are we still having dinner tomorrow?" His chest tightened. He had spent his life building an empire, crafting the perfect image of a self-made man. But now that image was cracking, and beneath it was something uglier, something he didn't want her to see. He made his choice. He would do this last job. Then he would disappear. The heist was a disaster. Somehow the police had been tipped off. Sirens wailed in the distance as Adebayo sprinted through back alleys, his heart pounding. He had been set up again. But this time, there was no escaping. As he rounded a corner, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Not the police, Amara, her eyes were wide with horror, her voice trembling. "Dad, what are you doing?" In her hand was his phone, the one he had left behind in his rush, filled with incriminating messages from Tunde. Adebayo's world shattered. She knew, and there was no lie, no disguise that could fix this. Chief Adebayo was a billionaire who owned half of Lagos. But tonight, he was just a desperate man standing in the rain, staring into his daughter's betrayed eyes. He had spent years crafting the perfect double. Life! King in the boardroom, ghost in the streets, but one fatal mistake had unraveled it all. And as the flashing police lights drew closer, he realized the cruelest truth of all. Some masks, once torn off, can never be worn again. Amara took a step back, her hands shaking as she gripped his phone. The screen was still lit with Tunde's. "Last message. Run if you want, but your daughter already knows the truth." The words dripped with venom, a final twist of the knife. Adebayo reached for her, but she flinched away like he was a stranger. "All those times you said you were working." "Late," her voice cracked. "You were stealing?" The accusation hit him harder than any bullet. He had spent his life controlling everything. Money, power, perception. But now, the one thing he couldn't lose was slipping through his fingers. Then came the cameras. A news van screeched to a halt nearby, reporters spilling out like vultures. "Chief Adebayo," they shouted, "is it true you masterminded the central bank heist?" Flashbulbs exploded in his face, each blinding burst etching his shame into permanence. Across the street, a TV in a shop window flickered to life, showing his face, his real face, splashed across the news with the words, "Billionaire thief" beneath it. Tunde's work. This wasn't just exposure, it was annihilation. The police cuffed him right there in the street, in front of Amara, in front of the whole world. As they shoved him into the back of a squad car, he caught a glimpse of Tunde leaning against a nearby car, smirking as he lit a cigarette. Their eyes met and Tunde gave him a mock salute. Game over. But Adebayo had one last card to play. In the interrogation room, the detective slapped a file on the table. "You're finished," one sneered. "We have you on theft, fraud, conspiracy. Your empire is dust." Adebayo said nothing. He just stared at the two-way mirror, knowing Tunde was probably watching from the other side, savoring his victory. Then he leaned forward, his voice a whisper. You want the real mastermind? Check Tunde's offshore accounts, the ones I set up for him." The detectives exchanged glances. Adebayo smiled. He had always been 3 steps ahead. Even in ruin, he wouldn't go down alone. But as the cell door clanged shut behind him that night, a chilling thought crept in. What if Tunde was expecting that too? To be continued. Did Chief Adebayo truly outsmart his enemy, or is this exactly where Tunde wanted him? Leave a comment with your guess. And don't forget to like and subscribe for the shocking conclusion.